No, I think we can go.
No, you're good.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for joining today. We're going to get started. My intention is to convene the meeting. You'll indulge me. I'd just like to talk about Carrie for a few moments, and then we'll continue the meeting as I know Carrie would have wanted us to do. So, before I call the meeting to order, I want to note for the record that I will serve as the acting chair for today's meeting. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State Urban Development Corporation, doing business as Empire State Development for Thursday, September 17th, 2015. So, Carrie and I started together. I'll bring this closer so I don't have to yell. Carrie and I started together here at ESD in February. I don't know if it was the same day or week, but it was definitely the same month. Now, Liz Fine is very both fond of her team and very respectful of her team. She's a big legal department booster. So whenever I have a meeting with Liz, I'm also going to have a meeting with some of her team, which is great. So I would get to meet Carrie often through these meetings, kind of unexpectedly. And I was new to ESD, as you can imagine, so I didn't know who everybody was and what everybody did, but it was a great way for me to start to get to know people. Carrie was one of those people that you just immediately, connect with. I didn't know anything about his background. I didn't know anything about his, incredible accomplishments. I just knew that here was a guy who had a great warm smile as soon as you met him, was always super polite and courteous in every way, had a great laugh, right? So I always appreciated that I could get Carrie to laugh at least a little bit. Was always smart and thoughtful and prepared. He was never the person who needed to or wanted to hear himself speak. He was just, and it wasn't until I went to the hospital and met his family and people were talking around the table that I realized he was this, Bronx to Harvard and the Ivy League and Wall Street. You couldn't tell. It was impossible to tell whether, Carrie graduated Podunk State like I did or Harvard like he did. He was that type of person. I am convinced I could have worked with him for 10 years and not have ever known that about him. He was just one of those people who was so totally comfortable in his own shoes and with himself. It was never about, there was no braggadocious aspect to him whatsoever. So, I want to say that about him. It's unusual for the background that he had and what he accomplished. That was really impressive. At the hospital, family, friends, people who flew in from around the country, all around the table with some grief counselors, right, Liz? People would talk just around the table about Carrie. And of course, I didn't know him that well, but I knew him well enough to not be surprised at all when everyone starts going around the table and talking about this guy. Carrie, the amazing friend. Carrie, the incredible brother. Carrie, the mentor for so many friends and family. Carrie, the warm-hearted. Carrie, the enjoy going out and having fun with friends. Carrie, the person who would hug his friends, kiss his friends, tell them how much he loved them. Carrie, the amazing student. Carrie, the remarkable son. His mother. He called me every single day on the way to work. He never one time didn't call me on the way to work. It was just amazing. Every person had a story about Carrie that was, by the time you were done, you just felt you felt like I wrote to you. You felt like you met the person and you now knew the person that you want your kids to become. I wrote that because it was what I was thinking when I was listening to people talk about him. And the governor talked about him and said, he's the American dream. He embodies the American dream, from public housing in the Bronx to Harvard to Wall Street, and then here at ESD. And I think it's important to say that he loved it here. I mean, his family would say how much he loved working at ESD and how much he enjoyed his colleagues and how important the things that we do are. And I think it's important to remember that we get all these metrics, green arrows and red arrows and yada yada, but we are in the opportunity business. We provide opportunity for people to get skills. We provide opportunities for cities to revitalize themselves. We provide opportunity for people to get jobs, to better their families. We provide opportunities for kids to stay in the cities they grew up in. We provide opportunities for them to come back to the cities they grew up in. We're in the opportunity business, and I think he understood that and appreciated that. So it's important work that we do here, and I was very glad to share with all of you the way he felt about that. I wanted to say before I wind down here, Liz was there in a big way. Liz, thank you. You were there for that family in a huge way. Marion Phillips was there for that family in a huge way. A lot of other people were there for Carrie in a huge way, and we couldn't have all been in the hospital. It's not that we were, that would have been appropriate, believe me. But I can't talk about what's happened the last couple of weeks without saying, to Liz and to Marion, thank you. The pain was on everyone's faces, whether you were there or not. I saw it all over the organization. People were so sad. It's nice to work at a place, and it's great to lead a place that has smarts and hearts. It's got soul. It's a good thing that you guys have here. You've had it way before I showed up. So I'm glad I've just had the opportunity to work with you, and I'm very proud to be here. And the way you conduct yourselves, and the way you care about each other, and the way you care about your work. So, I thought we would just have a moment of silence, for Kerry, for his family, and then we'll get back to business, okay? Okay, thank you.
Wonderful tribute.
Oh, thanks. The directors have received the written materials in advance of this meeting, and they are free to ask questions at any time. As noted on the agenda posted to the internet, we welcome public comment on the items on the following agenda. To ensure maximum opportunity for participation, speakers representing themselves may speak for up to 2 minutes each, and those representing groups may speak for up to 4 minutes. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. If so, I'd ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you may recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to the item. Any conflicts?
No, I'm just telling you.
Oh, okay. The first item on today's agenda is the approval of the minutes of the August 20th, 2015 Directors Meeting.
Move.
Second. We're going to go fast from here on out,
Yes.
I see. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? No,
Welcome
thank
aboard.
you. Glendon, please provide a summary of the project items on the agenda.
Thank you, and good afternoon. The directors will be requested to consider funding for 24 projects, including one Buffalo Regional Innovation Cluster grant for $15 million, one Empire State Economic Development Fund grant for $900,000, one New York Power Authority grant for $75 million, one Upstate City by City grant for $13,167,000, one Jobs Now grant for $2,630,000, and one DED sub-allocation grant for $100,000. The 24 projects include 19 regional council awards to be funded as follows: 14 regional council capital fund grants totaling $18,200,000, one Market New York grant for $37,500, 3 economic development purposes grant totaling $524,900, and one urban and community development program grant for $35,000. The 24 projects take place in the Western New York, Southern Tier, Island, Union Pacific, North Country, Capital, and Central regions. Will leverage over $5.4 billion of additional investment, retain 1,139 jobs, and create 663 jobs in the state. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Mike Ball, you on the line?
I am, thank you.
All right, you're going to start with the medical campus, right?
Yes. Good afternoon. The ESD directors are requested to approve a $15 million Buffalo Regional Innovation Cluster capital grant for Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus to assist Kaleida Health with infrastructure improvements, including the construction of connecting corridors, tunnels, sky bridges, and utilities. The medical campus is a not-for-profit consortium of Western New York's healthcare, life sciences, research, and medical education institutes located on a nearly 120-acre campus just north of the Central Business District in downtown Buffalo. The campus has become a hub of public and private investment, emerging as the address for Western New York's premier life science initiatives. Kaleida is a member institution of the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, and a not-for-profit corporation is the largest integrated healthcare delivery system in Western New York. In 2013, Kaleida announced that it would construct a new children's hospital known as the John R. Oshai Children's Hospital on the campus to ensure the longevity, growth, and development of its pediatric and high-risk obstetrical programs currently provided at the current aging Women and Children's Hospital of Buffalo. On October 8, 2014, the governor announced a $15 million capital grant to the medical campus to assist Kaleida with closing a funding gap on the Children's Hospital. ESD funds will be used to construct a series of above-ground connecting corridors, tunnels, and sky bridges between the new hospital and other campus buildings. 2 days after the governor's announcement, Kaleida broke ground on the estimated $212 million project, which includes the construction of the 410,000 square foot, 12-story, 185-bed hospital and the connecting above-ground corridors, as well as the acquisition and installation of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment necessary to fully equip the newly constructed hospital, which is expected to be complete in late 2017. Kaleida has already expended approximately $71 million on construction, primarily for the structural steel. The project is consistent with the Buffalo Billion Investment Development Plan to create a hub for worldwide collaboration of scientific and medical innovation and invention. It'll provide a comprehensive pediatric healthcare facility and contribute to the economic revitalization of the region. The connecting corridors will enhance accessibility between a network of campus buildings, facilitating a collaboration of healthcare, training, research, and business. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the directors on this item?
I just have a quick question.
Yep. Sure.
What is the EB5 New York State Regional Center? And I see they have a sizable loan. What is that entity?
That's the visas, the Chinese visas, the investment program. If you're familiar with that, you can get.
No.
So if you're a lot of those are, at least in the Buffalo area, we have a lot of Chinese investors, and if you invest in this EB5 program, I forget the amount of money, maybe it's $50,000, I can't recall, or $100,000, you have the opportunity to get, become a citizen of the United States as attached to an investment that, or at least the lengthy visa that.
That's correct.
That attached to the job creation. A certain project, the projects have to be in like distressed census areas. They have to create jobs locally. So it's an incentive to attract foreign direct investment. I'm sure it's open to other nationalities, but at least in Buffalo, in our experience, there's a lot of Chinese investors.
Right.
So so a loan fund is being created with the various proceeds raised from this, and they make loans to is that how this works? I'm not familiar with it.
Atlantic Yard is funded by EB5 money as well as the Staten Island Wheel. So it becomes part of the capital stack. It's a loan that can convert to equity at some point in time.
So great.
Okay. Didn't know that. Thank you.
And it tends to be a low interest way of financing something because the primary reason for lending the money is to enter the U.S.
Yeah.
So whether you get a 2% return or a 4% return, it's not.
They're not looking for a big
It's
return.
not the primary objective, so it tends to be.
How many hospitals are there in Buffalo?
How many hospitals?
Uh,
Two major systems.
How many hospitals are there?
You mean buildings or systems?
Like private.
How many hospitals are there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, the reason why I ask is we're putting a lot of state money into a hospital, and it probably a terrific project, and we'll approve it. The problem is that how many other hospitals do we have in Buffalo that are duplicating this or buying the same equipment and are going after the same patients and chasing after the same doctors to work for them?
It's a fair point. It's probably scratched the what we had traditionally done on the Buffalo Billion initiatives, where we focus more on entrepreneurship, tradable sectors. Because this was such a significant investment on the medical campus and life sciences and healthcare was such an important part of the strategy.
My point is that there should be some teeth in this that comes with it to say, look, if there's a hospital that's starting to borrow money, probably from the state or from other sources, not-for-profit hospital, that's borrowing to buy the same equipment to do the same things, that there's some kind of review from the health department as a strategy to understand, to eliminate duplication, needless duplication, and needless overbuilding of hospital beds in the region. I know that there is a big impetus to keep hospitals open because it's jobs. I get that. But this is a new project for the new children's hospital and all of that. And it just strikes me that there's got to be a children's hospital up there now, and they're probably chasing after the same pediatric surgeons and all of that.
Yeah.
And it just strikes me that, you know, it's just is there anybody in the health department that's looked at this thing, or has there been any attempt by any department of the government, state government, to say, look, we're doing this, you can't do that?
Let me just give a little context to that in Buffalo. This hospital is the largest women's and children's hospital. It's replacing the women's and children's hospital that Kaleida, which is the largest system in Buffalo, operates. So it's not a new entrant into the hospital business, and it's not additional capacity in the hospital business. It's taking what was already the largest women's and children's hospital and modernizing it in a new building on the medical campus. So
That's entirely fair.
I want you to know that.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But the other thing that is happening in upstate New York, a lot of the health systems are merging, and that is going all the way to Buffalo.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm absolutely aware of that because I'm former chair of a health system headquartered in Poughkeepsie. My issue is that this is a lot of money, state money, that's being expended to expand this hospital. Great project. The trouble is, if there's some other hospital
Competing.
5 miles down the road that's going to be applying for a certificate of need or some kind of state approval to add children's hospital beds in their hospital that they're going to borrow money on, that they're going to try to get patients, try to get doctors, in other words, I'm all for systems merging,
No, I
but
understand
I'm against duplication.
that. I
And
am too.
I'd be interested to see, is there anybody from the Department of Health, which is I don't want to talk about disparage another governmental agency, but have they reviewed this to see that there is no needless duplication taking place?
Well, the authorization and approval process, I think, to build the hospital in the first place
They
has to
have
go
to go
through that
through.
process. But
Yeah.
they don't review the ESD's involvement in it. But they
Mhm.
definitely review, from a certification standpoint, the whole approval process for building a hospital. This is, probably the largest construction project that Buffalo's seen in a long time, other than this outside the Solar City project.
I appreciate it. I just don't want to see 3 more hospital projects
Yep.
being done that duplicate what these guys are doing.
But
There's
part
no
of
money
what-
left.
If the population,
Yeah.
if the population was growing in Buffalo, like it is in South Florida, I'd say, well, okay, let's keep going.
Yeah.
But it isn't, and
Right.
so
So it's again, it's not adding, it's replacing a very antiquated hospital with what will be the most modern hospital system. So it should improve the quality of care, but it's not a capacity expansion or a market
I'm not
share.
against this. I want to make it clear to you.
Oh,
I am
yeah.
absolutely in favor of this. They have the appropriate scale, size, reputation, that this should be absolutely approved. I just want to understand if anybody in any state agency is watching all of the other hospitals in the Buffalo region to make sure that there is not, our hospital, we do stuff different than they do. That's the way they slice and dice it. And what happens is you get insane duplication of services that don't come, as far as I know, nobody in any of these hospitals, doctors, nurses, technicians, administrators work for free.
And I understand, and you're right on. I mean, I couldn't agree more with really all of your comments. In Buffalo, there's been some commissions because, as you point out, the community has shrunk in size over time. And there's been actually a lot of consolidation in the hospital business in Buffalo. A lot of hospitals have closed. The Erie County Medical Center and Kaleida Health have really, formed that Great Lakes Health as part of that whole state initiative around consolidation. At least it was a state-led initiative in Buffalo. So there are fewer hospitals. There's really only 2 hospital systems now, the Catholic and Kaleida. And healthcare has been rationalized in large part in Buffalo, I can tell you that. And this is, again, replacing a facility that's really going to be ideally suited for probably, residential and retail development. It's in a fabulous part of town, but it's a very antiquated, hospital. So that's, but I couldn't agree more from an economic development standpoint going forward. It's not it's not a tradable sector. Healthcare, people oftentimes talk about healthcare jobs, but one person's revenue is another person's expense. So, I think it's important to look at it that way in healthcare. It's not wealth creating in the sense, this isn't like hospital tourism necessarily. But this project was extraordinary, and it doesn't add to the capacity. But I'll stop talking.
So the answer is we don't know whether any governmental agency has reviewed other than this specific project in relation to any other future projects that take place in Buffalo.
Well, I mean, the health commission, there was this whole commission in recent years around consolidation
Yeah,
of hospitals.
that's why I'm asking.
And that's been reflected in all this, and this has been on the drawing boards and part of that plan now for some years.
Just working from experience.
Okay, yep, no, I hear you. So I forgot where I was, but I should probably ask for a motion to approve. Are there any other questions? Are there any comments from the public? Any comments from anybody?
I move.
Motion to approve. Okay,
Move.
is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Mike, you have a second item? Mike?
Yes, I do.
Wait,
Thank you.
Mike, before you start, I want
Yeah.
you to give us the Cliff Notes version of the second item.
Okay. The directors are requested to approve it's a $900,000 Empire State Development Fund grant to Bush Industries to assist with the management buyout of the company's assets. We were approached in 2014 by the company's senior management team that there was the potential that the company could be purchased by an overseas interest. So the senior management team came together and approached Empire State Development for assistance in facilitating that buyout for fear that if the overseas ownership was to complete the purchase, they would transfer the manufacturing operations to Asia. So in July of 2014, ESD offered a $900,000 incentive to the management buyout team to retain 230 employees in the Jamestown area. It's a $14.7 million project that, as I mentioned, includes the management buyout of all of the assets, including the facilities, machinery, and equipment. That transaction was completed in November 2014. And so in addition to the buyout, the company also was looking to install a new roof of the building and make repairs to the existing facility. So as a result of this incentive and the completion of the buyout, Bush will continue the operations in Chautauqua County and retain those 230 employees through January 2022.
Any comments or questions from the directors?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So is the management comprised largely or completely of local people? Or the
That's
management?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
All local people.
Any other questions or comments? Any comment from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Arnie, Will?
Yes, good afternoon. This project involves two grants totaling $15.8 million for a $336 million investment by Global Foundries for an expansion to support semiconductor fabrication. Project referred to as Fab 8 Model 1 Phase 2 includes infrastructure, installation, and fit-out of approximately 90,000 square feet of clean room and associated space, built as an extension to the 1.2 million square foot semiconductor wafer manufacturing plant in Saratoga. Project created 450 new high-paying jobs. That's in addition to the 1,250 jobs resulting from the previous ESD project. The incentive proposal for the project was accepted in December of 2010. Project was completed in May of 2013. Company has met the job commitments, and as of July 2015, the company employed a total of 4,994 employees in New York State, including approximately 2,886 at its Fab 8 site in Malta. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions from the directors on this project? Any comment from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Robin, representing the Southern Tier.
Yes, good afternoon. At the ESD July 16th board meeting, the directors approved a $5 million grant from the Jobs Now program to Modern Marketing Concepts here in Broome County. And as a background, Modern Marketing specializes in global business-to-business sales optimization, digitally focused and multi-channel sales campaigns. And the assistance to Modern Marketing will reimburse the company for a portion of the cost to acquire, redevelop, and equip a predominantly vacant industrial structure in Broome County and accommodate the expansion of Modern Marketing Concepts. And the reason why we're back here this month is to get the director's affirmation of the July 16th findings and determinations. We held a public hearing on August 6th, and there was a member of the community that had a negative comment regarding the project, and those comments centered on the focus of job creation goals, transparency of financial statements, operations, and customer relations. And this project is part of a public-private partnership involving other economic development agencies, underwent independent analyses that assessed the validity of the project and the company credentials. And after a subsequent review and consideration by ESD and staff, we believe the comments have been adequately addressed, and we are asking for the affirmation of the director's July 16th findings and determinations of the modern marketing project. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the directors on the modern marketing?
Liz, can you help us just understand the protocol here? So this was approved at the last board meeting. There's a public hearing thereafter. There's a positive comment and a negative comment. What are the circumstances under which it comes back to the board?
Anytime there's any negative comment about a project, it is reported back to the board so that you have the opportunity to consider the comment and adopt changes, withdraw the plan, or affirm it as it was originally presented.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comment? Any comment from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Simone, you've got the discretionary project calendar.
Thank you. The directors are requested to approve one discretionary consent project, a $100,000 capital grant to Alliant Tech Systems Operations, LLC. The company was founded in 1990 as an independent aerospace and defense technology operation. In 2013, the company sought funding through the United States Department of Energy's National Energy Technology Laboratory to develop an inertial carbon dioxide extraction system. The federal funding requires a 20% cost share, which must come from non-federal sources. Thank you. And ESD's grant is an important component for this plan. The project, which is ongoing, involves the testing and installation of equipment and is scheduled to be completed in December 2016 with a proposed total project cost of $3.7 million.
Any questions or comments from the directors? Any comment from the public? Motion to approve?
So
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Brendan?
Yes, good afternoon. We are seeking director's approval for a $75 million grant commitment that ESD will administer for the establishment of the Global 450 millimeter Wafer Consortium, also known as Semiconductor Transition Project. This project will take place at SUNY Poly's College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering in Albany. The funding source for this $75 million grant is the New York Power Authority, and there will be 5 $15 million annual disbursements to SUNY Poly. As further background, in September 2011, Governor Cuomo announced a total of $400 million New York State funding commitment for this $4.8 billion project, which will allow 5 leading international semiconductor companies to work together to advance the next generation of computer chip wafer platform. The new technology will produce more than twice the number of chips processed on today's current 300 millimeter wafers, which will lower costs to deliver future generations of technology with greater value, as well as lower environmental impact through lower energy use. Project activities include fit-out of additional clean room space at College of Nanoscale Albany Nanotech Complex, as well as acquisition and expansion of advanced machinery and equipment, as well as other renovations. ESD is already administering $300 million of the total $400 million New York State commitment, again, that Governor Cuomo had announced in 2011. ESD's board had approved that $300 million grant commitment that we're already administering in March 2012. The $75 million grant commitment that we are seeking director's approval for today will increase the amount administered by ESD to a total of $375 million. This investment will leverage over $4 billion of private investment in the critical semiconductor industry. And it's important to note that this project is anticipated to create and retain approximately 6,900 jobs. And this project is going to lead to the next generation of computer chip technology. Happy to answer any questions.
I think everyone is familiar with the focus the state has had now for some time on the nanoscale science engineering, which is headquartered in Albany. But I mean, these are big project dollars, and it's had a huge impact, obviously, in Albany. And the reality is, CNSE, through all of their contacts with industry around the country and around the world, has also really helped the rest of the state in many ways, and many of the other regions make transformational types of investments. Connected back to CNSE is the Solar City in Buffalo, is Photonics in Rochester, is the recent announcement in Utica in the Mohawk Valley. So, you know, we fund these, and they're significant. They're significant in Albany, but they're also now starting to have impacts in other parts of the state in a significant way that needed. So I'm just going to add that to the way people think about this. Is there any questions or comments from the director? Any comments from the public on this matter? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We're going to move to the Regional Council. John Vandeleu, representing North Country.
Good afternoon, Howard. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Howard, can you hear me?
We can hear you great.
Okay, thank you. The directors are asked to approve a $5 million grant to the Development Authority of the North Country, also known as DANC, to establish a revolving loan and grant fund to develop facilities in the North Country. These would be in various counties of the North Country, including Jefferson, Lewis, St. Lawrence, Essex, Franklin, Hamilton, and Clinton. DANC will establish a new revolving loan fund and grant fund to redevelop and develop facilities in the North Country. The project is consistent with the North Country Regional Council, which authorized the $5 million awards. DANC provides economic development assistance throughout the North Country region. DANC requested ESD assistance to help finance this new revolving loan and grant fund. The project will develop and redevelop new or existing facilities throughout the North Country region. That is my presentation for Development Authority of the North Country project. The total project is $5.5 million, 10% or $500,000 to be contributed by the beneficiary companies. The $5 million will be used to make loans and grants. Thank you.
John, what's the timing of this? What's the time frame?
This would have a multi-year life, likely up to 5 or 10 years, and they would get started as soon as we can after we get board approval.
Okay. Any questions or comments from directors on this? Yep, Derek.
Just a quick question. So it says the money's to be used to redevelop facilities. Is there any guidance on, is it all housing, is it retail, is it office space? What types of, or does any type of facility qualify for a loan here, or a grant?
Almost
Just
any
says
type.
facility.
There would be an application process. The DANC board would review it and approve it, and also the local regional ESD director, Steve Hunt, would review it and approve it.
So this would be primarily for rehabilitation?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Any comment from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving to the Central Region. Jim Thale.
We're spending a lot of money in it.
The first request that the Directors are being asked to approve is a $3,645,000 grant to the Syracuse Community Hotel Inc., DBA Marriott Downtown Syracuse. The board has previously approved $15 million in grants for this project, which is the redevelopment of the historic Hotel Syracuse, which originally opened in 1924, shut down in 2004, and is in the process of being renovated and rehabilitated. The renovations have begun, and the board is being asked to approve this because the grantee is seeking progress payments during the renovation portion. This was a round 4 priority project. This is a major project for the whole central New York region, revitalizing this key asset in the core of downtown. It's a $73.5 million project that will create 186 jobs, and there's a hard opening of May 1st of 2016 with a soft opening of St. Patrick's Day of 2016. And I would be glad to entertain any questions.
Any questions or comments?
You want to hear?
Yes.
I'll open the volume for you.
Yeah, I find this a little bit unclear. So this grant of $3.6 million is in addition to the $15 million that was already given to them, or already voted for them, approved for them.
That's correct. Those 3 grants, the $15 million comprised of 3 $5 million grants that literally dated back to 2006. This is how long we've been working on this project here in Syracuse. And those grants represented, in essence, the old member item monies, so $5 million from the governor's office, $5 million from the Senate, and $5 million from the Assembly. As the project progressed and costs continued to increase due to the lag in time, the lag in ownership, and trying to get control. At one point, this was owned by a investment group from Israel, and that went bankrupt, and so there was a very lengthy court bankruptcy filing, and the city of Syracuse ultimately had to take this property by eminent domain. And as a result of that lag, there was just increased things. So last year, the developer came and requested this money through the regional council process to complete the final gap. As you can imagine, with a project like this, the bank did not have a large appetite to want to finance a major part of the project. So M&T Bank just recently committed to their $46 million.
Here's another way of asking it. We've given 3 grants of $5 million each. Now we're being asked for another grant of $3.6. Is that it, or can we expect another request in another 6 or 8 months? Because the last one, as I recall, was done within the past year.
That is correct. That is correct on both counts. This is what's correct? The final request. At this point, 3 grants were approved earlier in order to get for timing purposes that were required for the grantee, and this was the final request that has come to us. At this point in time, we don't anticipate any future requests. We have not committed any other grant money at this point in time.
So the answer is we're not sure whether this is the final request or one of the final requests.
I'm 99% sure. I mean, as I say, the grantee is well underway. So we've been able to get through a lot of the challenges that initially happen when you start with remediation, etc. So I would not anticipate any other funding gaps at this point in time. There doesn't appear to be. Nobody's indicating there is.
What if it happens? What should we do?
I guess assess the situation at that point in time and take course of action.
Well, let me ask you, what stage is this project actually at this point?
Remediation's been complete. They are, at this point, it's a 10-story structure. They have gutted 4 or 5 of the floors that need to be gutted. Basically, what they're doing is again, back in 1994, they built very small rooms with very, very small bathrooms. So what they're doing to make this work is combining 2 rooms to make 1 room. So they've demolished all the interior walls. They're starting to rebuild those rooms. They're doing the HVAC, the electric. They're well underway into doing all of those types of things. They've done the repairs that were required for the roof, which was one of the reasons why we had brought the initial $15 million earlier, because they needed some assistance with repairing the roof because of such decay. So they, as I say, they're well on their way. They're literally had a job fair yesterday here. They are projected to be opened in May of 2016.
So at this point, what is the percentage of completion of construction?
I'm guessing here, but I would say at least 50%.
I'm sorry?
I would say 50%.
So it's difficult at this point to say whether or not they're going to be back for more money.
I would say, realistically, we're done with this.
You can never say never.
Well, you can ask for anything.
I would anticipate that wouldn't be the case, but I'm not going to sit here and tell the directors that they will definitely not be back for more money.
Okay,
well,
just wanted to know.
I'm just concerned, given my experience with construction costs, that 50% completion when they've done mostly demolition and not actual construction is a point at which it's hard to predict whether or not it's going to come in on cost.
Jim, do they have the financing from the bank?
Yes, that has been, they've closed on that loan, and so that all of the elements are in place.
Well, I would hope we won't find ourselves in the classic situation of having sunk a great deal of money into a project only to find that it requires more money, and we're not in a position to say no because we've already put in so much.
That was my question.
I would concur with that assessment, and I would hope that this is the final gap fill that is required.
Has that been made clear to the developer?
Yes. He's well aware of his challenges and what is required.
All right. I mean, I think, Jim, you get the sense that there's not a big appetite for the next agenda item with the Hotel Syracuse, okay?
I've heard that loud and clear.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Any comments from the public?
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Greg kicking and screaming into that one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep going, Jim. You're still up, right?
Yeah, I have 2 more. The next one is a much more traditional grant for Southern Graphic Systems. It's a $200,000 grant to support a $2.2 million investment to purchase machinery and equipment and perform related renovations and upgrades to its chrome and copper plating process. This was a round 3 priority project. The project is complete. The equipment's installed and operational. They've created 4 out of the 6 jobs that were required for this grant. Southern Graphics provides marketing and print media services to the international consumer product packaging market. They offer brand design and development, pre-press services, lean business solutions, print support services, such as flexography and lithography. As I say, the project's complete and the equipment is working. So glad to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the directors? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Move it.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Jim, you're 2/3 of the way through.
All right. Final is
Part
a
is over.
simple request to change the name of the grantee. At the May 18th board meeting, the board approved this $250,000 grant on this project to the grantee of Inns at Aurora LLC, and I'm sorry, it was to the Aurora Inns Inc., and is being requested to change to Inns Ave Aurora LLC. So it's a simple change in the name of the grantee.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second, all in favor?
Second.
Do the
Aye.
directors have to be?
Opposed? I don't know. I'm
Why are the
not sure
directors
why
involved in
that's.
this?
I assume that had to be approved here at the board. If not, let's.
Different grantee.
Change grantees, we always consider it to be a
have to do
material
that.
change. that
Okay.
we
Okay.
But it is the same grantee.
Okay, Mike Ball, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon again. The directors are requested to approve a $2 million priority project, round one from the Regional Council Capital Fund Grant for the City of Buffalo for a portion of streetscape and infrastructure costs. The $2 million grant on today's agenda is part of a $5.8 million project focused on streetscape and infrastructure development for portions of Pearl, Genesee, and Chippewa streets in downtown Buffalo. Project activities will include road construction and or resurfacing to include new bump outs, bicycle lanes, curbs, street lighting, sidewalks, directional signage, and benches. And also, portions of the Pearl Street project will be converted from one-way to two-way. Upon completion in mid-2016, the project is expected to provide improved traffic flow and connections in and between the now segmented harbor and waterfront, our financial, government, and central business districts, and the theater district. The project is expected to also help retain and significantly expand downtown businesses to help spur rehabilitation of over 2 million square feet of vacant and underutilized primarily commercial buildings into mixed-use structures and provide easier access to downtown Buffalo's local and national historic districts and over 30 individually listed structures on the National Register. The project is consistent with the REDC regional plan, as it's expected to revitalize the downtown core and help expand businesses and residential opportunities and promote smart growth, increase tourism, and attract young adults. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from directors on this downtown Buffalo revitalization project? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve.
Move.
Second. All
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mike, do you have another one or not?
Thank you. I do. I have one more.
Yeah, go on.
The directors are also requested to approve a $970,000 priority project, round one, Regional Council Capital Fund Grant to the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority to complete a master plan for the Niagara Falls International Airport. So the NFTA is a public authority here in Western New York that provides bus, rail, and air transportation services and oversees a number of subsidiaries, including the NFTA Metrobus, Rail and Paratransit System, the Greater Buffalo Niagara International Airport, and the Niagara Falls International Airport. The Niagara Falls International Airport primarily provides non-hub commercial service on 3 active runways in close proximity to the U.S.-Canadian border. In 2011, the NFTA applied for $1 million in CFA funding to help finance the master plan, as the most recent master plan was completed back in 1994, and airport master plans are generally updated every 5 to 10 years to depict proposed airport development for a 20-year span and are required by the Federal Aviation Administration to be eligible to receive federal funds for airport improvements. They're also used to complement local and regional plans in an effort to help facilitate economic development. So the NFTA was ultimately awarded the $970,000 capital grant, allowing the NFTA to contract with a consultant to complete the master plan. The $1.4 million project, which utilized input from multiple private and public entities, was completed in June 2015 and has provided the NFTA with the roadmap for sustainable development designed to maximize a financial return while utilizing and expanding on that existing infrastructure. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from directors? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve.
Move.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Arnie? Thanks, Mike.
Yes, St. Peter's Health Partners in Troy. Our project is a $1,250,000 capital grant to St. Peter's Health Partners to support a $9 million investment in the construction of a new parking garage. The project is phase one of a much larger investment that St. Peter's is undertaking in Troy in response to studies indicating the city cannot sustain 2 full-service hospitals. St. Peter's developed its plan to allow its 2 Troy hospitals to consolidate services and through specialization remain economically viable. Construction of the 400-space multi-level parking garage was needed to free up scarce surface space on the campus of Samaritan Hospital, allowing the hospital to proceed with an $89 million investment in a new patient tower, intensive care unit, and expanded emergency department. The garage is a round 3 priority of the Regional Council. Incentive proposal was accepted in February of 2014. Project was completed in August, and St. Peter's will break ground on a new patient tower this month. Total employment of the 2 hospitals is 2,100 employees. There was 120 construction employees involved, and the threat was the loss of potentially 500 if they had not done this project. I'm available for questions.
Questions or comments from directors? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve.
Move.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Megan, are you on the line?
I am. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? Long time no see.
Good. I know. Good afternoon to the ESD Board of Directors. We are asking you to approve a $1 million Regional Council Capital Grant Fund for Community Capital New York. This is a business improvement revolving loan fund project, which involves capitalizing a new revolving loan fund for small businesses in the Mid-Hudson region. This project was a priority project of the Mid-Hudson Regional Council in the 4th round of the CFA in 2014, as the project is consistent with with the Regional Council's economic development plan to promote small business through a variety of measures, including making it easier to access capital. With this capital grant, Community Capital New York will create approximately a $2.2 million revolving loan fund, and they expect to make 15 to 20 loans with an average loan size of $50,000 to $75,000, targeting certified MWBE and veteran-owned businesses, as well as businesses involved in agricultural tourism, food and beverage, and hospitality, which lines up very nicely with the Mid-Hudson Regional Council's economic plan for the region. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Which bank?
Community Capital New York is actually its own entity. Their own community development financial institution is the institution itself. So they operate in all 7 counties, or they serve all 7 counties of the Mid-Hudson.
Is deposited at a bank mutually acceptable to ESD. What's the bank? What bank? I want to know if I have a conflict of interest here. That's really what I want to know. Do you have an idea who it is?
Let me just double check that for you. I apologize. Give me 1 second.
I'll tell you what. I'll just abstain.
We could do like golf, a provisional conflict of interest.
No, I'll just abstain. I'll abstain.
Okay.
It's great.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposed? Okay, carried. Thank you. Thanks, Megan. Robin?
Thank you.
Yes, our next project is with Cornell University. The directors are being requested to approve a grant of up to $500,000 to Cornell University for a portion of the cost of renovation and machine or equipment for their food processing and development laboratory to improve programmatic space for conducting food research at the testing research pilot plant level of production. Cornell renovations included mechanical systems upgrades, as well as improvements to general and emergency lighting, fire alarms, access control, and signage. Cornell also developed an enclosed food engineering teaching lab within the facility, a flour mixing preparation room, roof replacement, and window systems. This is a round 2 priority project for the Southern Tier Regional Council, and it was completed back in April of this year with a total project cost of $2.6 million. This project supports our strategic plan in creating and maintaining a skilled dairy processing workforce through training and outreach, as well as further improving our safety and quality of dairy products. And this project will help Cornell retain 56 jobs in that division and will indirectly support job creation in the dairy and farming industries. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments for Robin?
This is a fabulous branch of Cornell Ag School.
Any comments from the public? Motion to approve.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Barry Greenspan from Long Island.
Yes, good afternoon. This project is the New York Institute of Technology's Entrepreneurship and Technology Innovation Center. The directors are asked to approve a $400,000 grant for a regional council priority project from round 1 for the New York Institute of Technology. NYIT has built a 5,300 square foot incubator on their Old Westbury campus to house promising companies in the area of health analytics, bioengineering, information technology, cybersecurity, and advanced energy. The total project cost was $3.5 million, with $1.2 million coming from the U.S. Economic Development Administration. ESD provided a $400,000 grant, and NYIT provided nearly $2 million towards this project. The project is complete, and it is very consistent with the Regional Council vision of a technology commercialization and creating a network of business incubators to move technology from the labs into the commercial marketplace. Companies at NYIT's center can utilize professors and engineering expertise and research assets on the NYIT campus. The project is complete and opened in 2015, so ESD is prepared to make the first grant disbursement. Thank you.
Great. Any questions or comments for Barry on this project? Any comment from the public? Motion to approve.
Moved.
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Ed Mazinski?
Good afternoon, everyone. The directors are requested to approve a $400,000 capital grant to New York Photonics, an industry association based in Greater Rochester. The grant will fund 2 metrology or measurement tools to be shared by this consortium of over 50 optics, photonics imaging companies, and universities in the Finger Lakes region. The equipment consists of 2 highly sophisticated tools that test wavelengths for different optic products, and this will be shared by this organization. 1 tool is already installed. The other is expected to be in place by this December. I just want to mention that in conjunction with this, Rochester is known for having one of the largest photonic clusters of its type in the United States, and this past July, the region received a boost when Vice President Biden came here, along with Governor Cuomo, to announce that Rochester was selected as the hub, as the location of the federally designated American Institute for Manufacturing Photonics hub, which is expected to bring thousands of jobs and millions of dollars in investment here. I'd be happy to take any questions on the photonics project.
Excuse me, leading. Any questions or comments from the directors? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
See how easy it is?
Kelly?
I have one other one.
Oh, well, I stand corrected. You're up.
I have the High Tech of Rochester project. This is a $150,000 capital grant to High Tech Rochester, an affiliate of the University of Rochester, to fund a video conferencing system at 10 locations in the region. High Tech Rochester, or HTR, assists entrepreneurs and startups in the region and has embarked on a project to create a hub and node business accelerator consortium to help stimulate entrepreneurial growth throughout the region. This hub and node model will connect its main accelerator location with 9 other locations through video conferencing, and will connect the entrepreneurs and startup companies to make the services of this organization readily accessible. To date, 6 of the 10 locations have already been equipped with the video conferencing, and the balance is expected to be completed by March of 2016. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve?
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Kelly Market New York Grant Program, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman, and good afternoon to the board. We have one Market New York Round 4 project. Just as a note, please don't despair. I know we normally have many more projects, but we'll certainly make up for it next month, and you'll see that. So our one project this month is for Hannaford Mills Museum. The project name is Exploring Route 28, Kingston to Herkimer Working Capital Project. The grant is for $37,500, and this project, the Hannaford Mills Museum, will use the funds to implement a multimedia marketing campaign entitled More Than 112 Miles of Smiles. It's encouraging travelers to explore tourism attractions within 3 Regional Economic Development Council regions, where tourists will find an exciting mix of cultural, historical, adventure, and natural beauty attractions in rural communities along the route. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions here? Any comments from the public?
Howard, I'd just offer the comment, as I've mentioned to you before, to review whether or not there should be a threshold of what matters come before the board, so that both the staff is empowered to make decisions on grants of this size, and also that the board kind of concentrates its energy on more substantial projects.
Well, and we'll consider that and take a look at it, but those are good points. I don't think we've changed the limit probably in some years. So. Anyway, in the meantime, are there any other comments on this item?
It's 13 years?
30.
30 years.
86.
Okay.
Okay. Well, adjusted for inflation, the minimum is now $250,000. Okay. Which will make your job easier, Kelly.
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments? Any comments from the public? A motion to approve? Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Simone, you've got the September Regional Council Award projects.
Thank you. The directors are requested to approve 6 projects. First item is a $100,000 Regional Council Capital Fund grant to Field Goods, LLC, a subscription food delivery service that brings locally farmed fresh fruits and vegetables to individuals at their workplace and community pickup locations. The company applied to and was awarded a grant through Round 4 of the CFA to help it acquire and renovate a 17,000 square foot building on a 3-acre parcel of land. The project was completed in July 2015 at a cost of approximately $700,000. The second item is a $54,000 Regional Council Capital Grant to RS Precision Industries. The company manufactures precision parts for the aerospace industry and applied under Round 4 of the CFA for assistance to purchase new machinery and equipment. ESD made the company an offer of assistance in February 2015, which the company accepted in the same month. The project was completed in July 2015 at a total cost of $270,000. The third item is a $39,000 Round 3 capital grant to Laughlin Machine Corporation, a manufacturer of precision parts for the aerospace and medical industries. The grant will be used to purchase and install new machinery and equipment, and the project was completed in June 2015 at a cost of approximately $200,000. I also want to note for the record that the project location address will be updated for the corporate record, as it's incorrect in the materials. The fourth item is a $100,000 Economic Development Services Fund capital grant approved in round 3 of the CFA to the Indian Lake Chamber of Commerce, a not-for-profit that promotes economic development through support of business and tourism. In August 2013, the organization applied to ESD for funding assistance to plan, develop, and conduct the Adirondack Teleworks computer training program to teach residents and employers basic computer skills. Total project costs were $111,000, and the project was completed in June 2015. The fifth item is a $24,000 903 Economic Development Purposes Fund working capital grant to Suffolk County Community College to develop a curriculum that targets residents of the greater Wyandanch area to be trained as skilled and employable manufacturers. ESD made the college an offer of assistance, which the college accepted in April 2014. The training program was complete in May 2015, with 21 people having been successfully trained at a cost of $27,669. The final item is a $39,000 Urban and Community Development Working Capital Grant from Round 3 of the CFA to the Columbia County Economic Development Corporation. The grant, considered a priority by the Capital Regional Economic Development Council, was used to create a study that would examine the current condition of the dairy goat industry, index existing dairy goat farms and goat milk processing facilities within the capital region, and determine the industry's ability to meet future demand. The study was completed in June 2015 at a cost of $70,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Any questions or comments from the directors? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve. Moved. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Jeff Nordhaus is with us to present Connect New York Broadband Program Consent Calendar. Jeff.
Thank you, Howard. We're seeking directors of approval to fund one broadband program for $2.9 million. This was awarded through the Regional Council funding CFA Round 4. The grantee is part of the Catskills Communications for a project which is called the Delaware County Broadband Initiative. The Delaware County Broadband Initiative presents a collaboration of telecommunications providers, a not-for-profit electric cooperative, and 2 economic agencies in a partnership to extend broadband availability to unserved residents within the rural Delaware County region of New York State. NTC Cable, which is Heart of the Catskills Communication, is partnering with DTC Cable and the Delhi Telephone Company, along with the Delaware County Electric Cooperative, to extend 213 miles of fiber-to-the-home facilities within the footprint and pass more than 1,800 residents within 8 municipalities. This project was awarded, was authorized in the 2014 New York State budget, and the project is slated for completion in October 2018. The project is described in more details in the multi-disbursement consent calendar form. I'd be happy to answer any questions other than that. That's what I'd like to run through.
We have approved a number of these broadband projects, and they're really important. What I'm wondering is what areas in the state still need this?
Well, that's a great question. So you have seen some projects, and you will be seeing many more. As you know, in the current budget, the governor has approved a $500 million program called the New New York Broadband Program. I was joined a couple of months ago to.
So this is 2.9 of.
No.
500?
No, this is 2.9 million, but it's not of the 500 million. So.
Okay.
So you asked me, would we be seeing more? And what I was saying was this project is 2.9, which was a regional council funding. But in addition to this one and others that are similar, you will be also seeing many more because there will be a $500 million program coming down the pike.
Yeah, but that's my question. I mean, we got 2.9 here, and we've got a map of the state of New York,
yes.
And we have, we've done here, 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 we've done here.
Sure. you want to talk
I'm
about...
assuming that we're going to be allocating it. Are we allocating it, or is what's the process going to be?
So for the new program, the $500 million program?
Yeah.
Sure, happy to talk about that. It's probably a longer conversation that we might want to do more on in the future. But the short answer is there are 8.1 million households in New York State. There's 500,000 or 500,000 that don't meet the speed tiers that are set forth by the governor for broadband. So 500,000 out of 8 million. There's another 2 million there's 500,000 that don't have broadband at all at the 25 megs. There's another sort of 2 million that have it, but at lower speeds than we deem to be sort of ideal. So we are right now in the process of devising and finalizing a process to award additional grants out of the 500 million that would target both the 500,000 that are unserved and the additional couple million that are underserved. And that's kind of something that we're very much knee-deep in at the moment.
Okay, so you're looking at to see where, are we leading the
Yes.
project here? Or?
Yep, let me give a little context of this. So the governor has been focused on broadband prior to this year's budget.
Yeah, it's great.
Right, it was much smaller scale. So we had developed in recent years a number of initiatives like this 2.9 million that extended broadband reach depending on the region of the state. In the budget, in his State of the State and in the budget, he said he wants to have broadband available to every citizen in the state of New York by, I want to say, 2018.
2018, yeah.
We actually, ESD brought Jeff in because that made the program 15 times more robust than it had been previously. And there isn't a simple strategy to figure out how we're going to service all of those folks by 2018. So it's really a full-time job and then some.
Yeah, are we doing it?
We are doing it, yes.
Good, okay,
We're
great.
leading the initiative, but it's not going to be with one supplier, and it's not going to be one $500 million authorization coming before the board. It's likely to be in pieces because in each area there's
as you figure it out,
a most logical way of providing the service, which might be different than the contiguous region. This is going to be a regular part, I think, of what we do.
Yeah, okay.
We'll be tired of hearing about little projects like this probably.
Will 500 cover it?
These are really tough questions. We think so, but it sort of depends. So it's complicated. But yeah, the goal is to have 500 million cover it.
And to leverage the
depends
money.
On technology too. So you have to optimize technologies. Like it won't cover it probably for fiber to the home everywhere, but you can do fiber to the home. You can do wireless in places, and the goal is to optimize between sort of technologies and speeds to cover everyone.
It's public safety, really.
That's part of it too. Yeah.
No doubt.
And the public money is intended to leverage private investments.
Sure.
It's not just all carried on the back of the state. But maybe Jeff, in a couple more months or a few more months, when we have enough experience with the sort of go forward MO, we'll schedule you for the board just to talk about how the project is going and what your go forward anticipated, rate of accomplishment will be. And it doesn't have to be a board vote item. We could just talk about.
Yeah, be happy to chat about it anytime.
Terrific. This is great.
Are the fees to be charged to customers lower than they would ordinarily have been if
I'm
not?
sorry, I missed the first. Are the fees?
Are they the prices to be charged to residential customers, are they lower than they ordinarily would have been if not for our investment?
The goal is really to provide availability to these citizens who normally wouldn't have any option for broadband. So most of the projects to date don't contain a requirement on the company to sort of price it at certain levels. But, to the extent there may not be competition or there may only be one provider and then there's two providers, sort of the natural uplift of competition would, you'd think would improve service and provide pricing. But that's something that we're looking at in the context of the new program as well, because really broadband, as you said, is both about availability but also about affordability. So you really have to look at both of those issues.
Jeff, would you remind me when there's a benefit cost analysis embedded in a pitch like this? Because there's not one here. What's the norm?
This one was done through the regional council, so it was recommended, it came through a scoring process where they looked at the available, the number of homes passed compared to the price, and compared that to the other projects that were, came through the process. So I haven't seen that for this, but I can, follow up with you.
A bit more of a macro level, just trying to figure out when do the different proposals contain a benefit cost analysis and when do they not. I think Glenn may have explained this to me at the last meeting. It looks like it's an infrastructure investment.
I'm not sure. I mean, that's something I have to follow up on.
Some of these, like the broadband, have been less, BCA, or they're not as much traditional sort of Excelsior economic incentives. The objective there was mostly to try and get access in areas where there wasn't access. So some of these types of programs don't fall under the BCA analysis. They're the best recommended way to deliver service.
Absolutely. So maybe at the next meeting, somebody on the staff can just help us understand when is there the benefit cost analysis. Thank you, Howard.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments for Jeff? Motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Ed, you're back.
Thank you very much. The non-discretionary projects refer to those listed in the state budget that enhance communities through cultural, educational, research and development, and civic organizations. These projects originate from either the governor, assembly, or senate, and then ESD is named to administer the funding. ESD does not select the funding recipients. There is one executive-sponsored Innovation Economy Matching Grant for $844,399 to the St. Regis Mohawk Tribe for working capital as part of a high-speed broadband system constructed in Franklin and St. Lawrence counties in the North Country. The system was completed in December of 2014 and serves 1,500 households, over 200 businesses, and over 40 critical community facilities, including a hospital. There are two Senate-sponsored local assistance grants. The first of these is a $450,000 working capital grant to Wyoming County in the Finger Lakes region to reduce its lease payments for an agribusiness center that will house all of the county's agricultural-related agencies. The center is under construction by a developer with completion expected this coming December. Wyoming County will lease the facility for 17 and a half years and then own the facility. Our grant will eventually go to the developer upon completion and will write down the county's lease payments over that lease term. The second Senate-sponsored item is a $10,000 local assistance working capital grant to the town of Lyme in the North Country for promotion of its fishing tournaments, especially its annual ice fishing derby on Lake Ontario, held in early winter. The promotion is ongoing to be completed this coming winter. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Ed on these projects? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Okay. Michael Evans, President of the Moynihan Station, has joined us to present a contract item related to Farley Building Events Management Services.
Thank you, Howard. The item before the directors relates to the events management contract that we have at the Farley Building. The building, of course, was purchased by Empire State Development in 2007, and as we move forward with the Moynihan Station project, one of our efforts to raise revenue involved a competitive RFP in 2013 to bring on an events manager and marketing specialist to manage the larger spaces within the building for events to generate revenues. The competitive RFP was won by the Skylight Group, It was a 1-year contract with 3 6-month renewals. The final renewal period will end in February of 16. We've learned a lot about the New York City events business in the meantime, and that happens to fall right in the middle of the events calendar in New York City, which really runs from September until June. And so it makes more sense to extend their contract through the summer of 16 into September to allow them to finish out the events calendar, which otherwise we would jeopardize significant revenue to the corporation that goes to operate the building. By extending their contract, that will allow us time to do a new RFP that would take place over the spring and summer, and either them or another firm that competes could be brought in line with the typical events calendar. Also, because final design is moving forward on the Moynihan Station project and going well, this also allows the corporation and MSDC time to consider whether or not it even makes sense to bring in a firm to manage events in the building, depending upon the construction activity on the site in the autumn of 16. I just want to say that this has been an extremely successful contract. The corporation had gone from 0 revenue from events in 2012 to over $3.5 million a year in events, which is a good example would be Fashion Week, which just concluded yesterday. The Farley Building was the headquarters for New York Fashion Week, and that deal was made possible in large part because of the work of the Skylight Group to negotiate and bring in that contract and to manage that contract successfully. So I think it's very prudent to expand the contract. I think we'll see an additional $2 million in revenue just in the spring that will go to operate the building, and that is what is before the directors today.
Okay, yes, Joyce.
Could you just give us an idea of what other kinds of events there are besides Fashion Week?
Certainly. We have an enormous, a lot of corporate events. There's an enormous Microsoft event that will be coming in right after Fashion Week. In the spring, a lot of media companies do events in the building around the upfronts, both tech companies. We've had AOL and Yahoo in the past. There was a huge Apple event for their streaming service in the spring. And we've also done gala dinners, both for-profit and non-profit institutions, holiday parties. And over the last 2 years, we've really benefited from New York's, attraction of the Super Bowl. We did a major Super Bowl event with Nike, and then last year the NBA All-Star Game, the NBA took over the space for a month. So it's been, I think, successful beyond anything I could have imagined.
Where do they have it, in the main hall of the post office?
Not in the main hall of the post office, actually in the space, the old sorting room that will be
the sorting room, okay.
The future
all right.
train hall.
Yeah.
It's huge.
You've got to get down there.
So once the train station opens, this will no longer be.
That's true. In fact, once we start construction, it will no longer be an event space in that space. We are, of course, doing construction on the first phase of the project right now.
Is that only during construction period, or will it after the construction?
It will not be an event space any longer. That space is the future train hall. So.
The sorting floor?
The old sorting room.
Isn't the sorting room upstairs?
Yes, but that floor is coming out. So that's what creates the giant room. We removed the old sorting room floor to create a double head space. I welcome all of you to come for a tour and to remind.
Let us know.
Michael, we were just talking about that, saying how much we would like a tour, and so to just try to facilitate a convenient date. It's very encouraging.
Yes, and phase one is a
There,
year.
but Liz and I have been trying to get down there for, what, a year and a half?
I was there 3 years ago.
Yeah, you went down on the
went on
tour,
that
but I
tour,
couldn't
yeah,
make
you
it.
couldn't do it that day.
After a meeting, and we could try for after the October meeting.
Yeah, let's earmark that.
Right, the meeting.
Yeah, there's an enormous amount of progress, of course, not just in the event spaces, but in the phase one construction to see as well, which we are less than a year from completion.
Excellent.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Michael? Any comments from the public? Motion to approve.
Move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Sue, thank you. You're going to present a consulting services contract related to Bayview Correctional.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The directors are requested to authorize entering into a contract with Lee Saltzman Architects to provide historic preservation consulting services in connection with the anticipated future disposition and adaptive reuse of the former Bayview Correctional Facility. As part of the state's efforts to dispose of surplus state-owned properties, ESD is currently involved in the disposition of the Bayview Correctional Facility, for which an RFP was issued in May 2014. The site, located at 550 West 20th Street in West Chelsea, consists of 2 adjoining buildings totaling over 100,000 square feet. It was originally used for the Siemens House YMCA and is eligible for listing on the state and national registers of historic places. Due to the site's historic eligibility, upon selection of the developer, the project will require consultation with the New York State Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, in accordance with Section 1409 of the State Historic Preservation Act. In order to be able to start work expeditiously and to assist ESD with the SHPO consultation process, staff recommends the retention of a historic preservation consultant. The consultant's scope of work would include the preparation of documents necessary to facilitate the consultation process, including an historic structures report to understand the history, significance, and condition of the site and to ensure preservation of the historic character, and an alternatives analysis exploring all feasible and prudent alternatives considered to avoid or minimize adverse impacts. Lee Saltzman Architects is an ESD pre-qualified small business and women-owned firm with expertise in historic preservation, rehabilitation, and adaptive reuse, and is well versed with the requirements of the Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties, SHPO, and the Section 1409 process. Moreover, they've worked successfully on ESD's 42nd Street development project, providing owners representatives historic preservation services. As a result, the consultant is uniquely familiar with ESD's required consultation process for SHPO, which will ensure increased efficiency. The requested contract is with a New York State certified women-owned business enterprise and will not exceed $200,000. Therefore, the contract qualifies as a discretionary purchase under the Governor's MWBE executive order, for which a formal competitive process and contract reporter advertising are not required. The contract will be funded entirely from an impressed account funded by the ultimately selected project developer. The directors are thus requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the consultant and authorize ESD to retain the consultant for historic preservation consulting services as described in the materials for a maximum amount of $200,000. Thank you.
Great. Any questions for Sue or comments on this item? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Sue. Simon will present an item related to the procurement of marketing services for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, members of the board. The board is asked to authorize the entering into an initial 2-year contract with Lowe and Partners Worldwide Incorporated, which does business as Campbell Ewald, New York, to provide full-service marketing services, including advertising, digital marketing, events, media planning, and buying services, and to take the board to take, of course, the normal related actions. As laid out in the materials before you, the contract amount is not to exceed $100 million for 2 years. The contract may be extended for up to 2 additional years if agreed to by the parties, and of course subject to review and approval by the Office of the State Controller. Funding for the contract is from legislative appropriations, and the contract amount is contingent on funding availability. The firm of Campbell Ewald, New York, was chosen after a rigorous procurement process that was a little different to our usual process in that it involved 2 steps. First, we issued a request for qualifications for marketing services, which was advertised in the contract reporter in April. 20 agencies from around the country submitted responses, which were reviewed by ESD's selection committee members and evaluated based on the criteria outlined in your board materials. Of those 20 agencies, 8 firms with the highest overall scores were then interviewed in depth by the selection committee, and at those interviews, each of the firms discussed their prior campaigns with special emphasis on business-to-business and tourism advertising, which is the mainstay of our marketing effort. Based on each agency's consequent RFQ, or request for qualifications, response, interviews, and price, the selection committee then requested that the 3 highest agencies respond to a request for proposal, the second part of the 2-step process that I mentioned, which was issued in June of this year. The 3 highest firms were BBDO, our former marketing, full-service marketing agency that the board approved 4 years ago and whose contract has now run its course, and Campbell Ewald, New York. The RFP included an assignment that required each of the 3 selected and qualified firms to submit a detailed and creative response, amongst other things, to create an integrated campaign that ties together the state of opportunity message, that is the essence of our advertising, and ESD's 3 pillars of the state of upon which the state of opportunity is built, that we believe distinguish New York State from other states as the best place to do business. Those 3 pillars are, first, the many incentives and programs that New York State offers to businesses. Second, the way that we target small businesses, that's of less than 100 employees. And third, how we lead in bringing together businesses and institutions of higher education that benefit the business, the universities, and local communities in a compelling way. Each of the 3 selected agencies made presentations to the selection committee, which were also attended by members of ESD's leadership team, I believe including yourself, Mr. Chairman, and certainly others, at meetings held in July of this year. The selection committee evaluated the proposals to the responses to the RFP from each of those 3 qualified agencies based on the criteria laid out in your board materials. Based on each agency's proposal, the interviews and price, the selection committee, incorporating input from ESD's leadership team, finalized scores and ranked Campbell Ewald, New York, as the marketing agency with the best value combination of technical score and price. I might add that was a unanimous decision of the selection committee. We note that Campbell Ewald has worked very well with other governmental agencies, including the New York State Division of the Lottery and also the United States Navy. They are therefore fully familiar with the bureaucratic requirements of doing business with governments. And
they still apply, huh?
They're doing work with the Navy, believe me, they know how to deal with bureaucracies, that's for sure.
We're going to try to have a more militaristic approach to marketing in the future, yes. It's important to note that, and was a crucial part of the RFP process, that Campbell Ewald will work in collaboration with the corporation on a yearly basis and during the year to develop performance metrics to assess the effectiveness of all marketing campaigns, then ongoing and proposed for the ensuing year. When those metrics have been agreed to by ESD, Campbell Ewald will formulate key performance indicators. I've learned that this is part of the marketing jargon called KPIs, as well as other performance standards, together with measurement programs that assess the direct and indirect economic impacts of our marketing program, while providing us with the opportunity to course correct the marketing with adjustments in both messaging and spending. As the board will be aware, this was a key a key element of the State Controller's audit of our last marketing program was to strengthen the performance metrics to ensure that there were clear evidence of the effectiveness of our marketing campaign. So to summarize, the board is being requested to authorize entering into a 2-year contract with Campbell Ewald, New York, a contract that may be extended for 2 additional years with board approval and subject again to the controller's review and approval, to provide marketing services including advertising, digital marketing, events, media planning and buying. The contract amount not to exceed $100 million for the 2 years, and staff has of course made a thorough examination of Campbell Ewald's finances. Campbell Ewald, by the way, is part of the Interpublic Group, a large media and advertising entity. We've made a thorough examination of Campbell Ewald's finances and its corporate history, as well as Interpublic, to determine that it is a responsible vendor, and therefore we ask the board to make a responsibility determination in addition. Happy to answer any questions, and I note that Rich Newman, head of marketing, is here. Put him on the spot too.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, Simon, it says not to exceed 100 million, but it could be extended for 2 years.
Yes.
Does the 100 million stay stable even if it's extended?
No, it would be subject to the annual appropriations, and the 100 million is what we now have appropriated by the legislature on the table right now. We would expect that will be extended in future years, but that's of course a matter for the legislature.
But the 100 million goes for 2 years, right?
Correct.
Okay, yes. But it could be both the funding and the money could be extended more.
Yes, correct.
So the 2 years is no less than 100 million.
Subject to, as I said, it's subject to actual funding availability. The legislature.
This route before.
Yes, we have been down this route before.
Yes, we have.
Historically, NYPA has been instructed to provide $50 million per year over the past 5 years. We have funding for 2015-16, which is what would be allocated to this contract. We have every reason to believe that would continue into 2016-17.
Right.
If the contract is extended into year 3 and year 4 with your approval, then we would expect, because we have no further information to not expect this, that it would be an additional $50 million per year.
Okay, all right.
Simon and Rich, Judith? Joyce?
Yes, this isn't actually directed so much at this project, but it's general comments on approving major contracts and for large sums of money. And I know, Simon, that you've worked very hard and have a great deal of experience, and I'm not questioning your judgment. Just somehow Simon, you've done a terrific job.
Joyce?
However, my point is a more general one, which is simply that as a director, it's very difficult, and I feel somewhat uncomfortable approving these kinds of contracts for large sets of money in which there's been an RFP process and we're voting on a contract for the vendor that's been selected through that process without having been shown or having been part of the without having had access, let's put it that way, without having had access to the other proposals or the other vendees, so that we can exercise some judgment of our own.
Okay. The process, and Rich can talk about it, was very, I want to say the management was quite focused on this as a high priority item. The selection committee included substantial portions of the senior leadership team at ESD. This process went through a number of steps, literally over many months, I would say. And if it helps at all, I can assure you that the agency took this process very seriously, and it was pretty much all hands on deck with respect to recognizing the importance of this decision and the process. So, I mean, we could have theoretically invited the board to participate in the process. We could have had open public meetings on every time we got together. But I do want you to know, and Rich, maybe you can elaborate on that as well. We, from the inception, from the request for qualifications, right through presentations, this was a massive process that the ESD went through. I'll tell you that, Joyce, for sure.
No, I appreciate it, having run RFP processes myself, and knowing what's involved in them, and also having confidence in the agency staff. However, what I'm saying is a broader point, not necessarily in regard to this particular contract, but in general, that I think it would be helpful in terms of approving these projects if we had access at, say, the last stage of the selection process, so that we are aware of who the other vendors were, what the points of how the scoring was done, and how they scored.
And I think that what happened was we would wait until toward the end, right, to negotiate the final deal with the preferred vendor. And then there is a certain compromise that you put yourself in if we have these public meetings and everybody, the vendors know perhaps too much information at a certain point in time. So
no, that's true.
I think, we use discretion that way when the directors get together as a public forum generally. But I mean, we waited to the end once we, I think, decided the product that we wanted and the agency that we wanted, and correct me if I'm wrong, before really all the details were negotiated.
That's correct, and I might just add, and I do understand the perspective you're raising, is that part of the reason why we changed the process and started with an RFQ was because we wanted as wide a selection of potentially qualified firms. We actually received responses from all of the major firms, or many of the major firms in New York City and in New York State. So we felt as if we started with a pool of very qualified organizations. The second point that I think is critical is the leadership team at ESD was brought up to speed on a really weekly or bi-weekly basis with the status of the RFP process. Howard and Mehul both made time, along with the rest of the leadership team, to actually attend all of the meetings where the three finalists presented all of their work. The input from the viewers, not part of the selection committee, but the viewers, was unanimous, as was the view of the actual selection committee. And from that perspective, we felt as if we had been pretty clear, given pretty clear indications that these were the most qualified. So I would just like to give you that reassurance that we have confidence in that.
And I'd just like to reiterate that my criticism isn't of this particular contract and the way it was handled. It's more of a comment on the possibility of, in the future, letting the directors have a little bit more, not necessarily input, but at least insight into who the finalists are, into their presentations, and why this vendor was selected as opposed to the others.
Okay.
Is it fair to say that part of the selection process included an analysis of of how each firm proposed to sort of divide up between their own overhead and the actual money spent on the placement of ads and the direct outreach?
Yes.
No question. I would think so.
The cost was a big component of our analysis.
Big component.
And in terms of BBDO, are there any sort of transitional costs that go from switching from one firm to the other, and is that taken into account, if so?
We had planned to budget for overlap between these two firms to make sure that we continue to work at a very fast pace, which we do, and to manage the transition of all of the materials from one agency to the other. So that has been incorporated into our budget plan for the year.
Which is another way of saying, yes, there will be some costs associated with the transition, but we're planning for those costs and always expected.
And it was deemed to be worthwhile and to make the transition anyway.
Yeah, well, we don't anticipate any problems in that area. You know, these are very sophisticated firms, and this
do this all the
happens
time.
all the time.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Sorry, I had to step out for a minute. Anything else, Rich? Simon?
One more question. Can you just talk a little bit more about the KPIs and how, and the proposal to improve those pursuant to the controller's audit?
Yes. One of the key aspects of the assignment we gave to each of the three agencies as part of the RFP was for them to actually outline what they would do in terms of designing KPIs and how they would then measure those KPIs, with our interest ultimately being able to demonstrate some kind of effective ROI for the work that we're doing, which is a easy thing to say and a very complex thing to do. The most robust by a long stretch was the proposal given to us by Campbell Ewald, New York, where they had done research with business leaders, both in the state and outside the state, and had identified the decision-making process that these leaders go through when they're making a decision to expand a company in a specific state or to, in fact, move locations. That process they laid out. They laid out through each step of that process where we can measure impact. They are bringing on a firm, at least that's their recommendation, that does analytics and modeling for both macroeconomics and microeconomics to help us begin to understand what are the factors that actually drive valuable behaviors for the state. And that was far more robust. The analytics firm has done an enormous amount of work with the U.S. Navy on recruiting analytics and ROI, and so it was very impressive in terms of the information they had.
And is it your expectation that this will fully address the concerns raised in the audit, or it's entirely unpredictable, I suppose?
I will say that we did speak to the Office of State Controller as part of this process, and we shared with them the RFP process we went through, and we also shared with them the proposed solution from Campbell Ewald, New York. They were very pleased that we had made significant progress in line with what we had said in the response to the audit.
And if I could add just one other small point, just to amplify that, we've also shared the actual our proposed actual contractual language about that element of the scope of work with the state controller, and the controller's already said that looks good to us, which should speed the controller's review of the resulting contract, assuming that we can come to a contract with Campbell Ewald, which we certainly expect we can. But
thank you.
Good question.
Other questions or comments? Any comments from the public? Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Tawanda Mitchell will present our quarterly report on utilization of certified minority and women business enterprises.
Good afternoon. For the first quarter of fiscal year 2015 through 2016, ESD achieved MWB participation in agency projects and procurements totaling 18.32%. During the quarter, ESD dispersed a total of $209.57 million in eligible procurements to vendors, grantees, and borrowers. Of the eligible procurements, $38.39 million in payments were reported to MWBs. With respect to initial commitments, for the first quarter of the fiscal year 2015 through 16, ESD and its subsidiaries executed a total of $28.48 million in procurements and amendments, of which $28.39 million were MWB eligible procurements. Of the eligible procurements, $1.97 million, or 6.95%, has been committed to MWBs by ESD, its subsidiaries, and primes. In comparison, for the first quarter of the fiscal year 2014 through 15, ESD received MWB participation commitments totaling $1.3 million, or 2.2% of the total contractual commitments. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Just before we, are there any questions at all? Okay, we don't have to vote on it, but thank you for the report, Wanda. Any questions from any directors? Before we adjourn, I just wanted to take the opportunity, since this is the last board meeting that Mahul will be at, and I haven't, and I will early next week write a thank you to Mahul organization-wide. I didn't want to group certain of these communications together, but Mahul has been with ESD for 7+ years. He's been chief of staff and most recently COO as well. You know, when I got the opportunity to head ESD, I tell people, or people would read about it, and I can't tell you how many people would call me and said, Mahul's great. I was so glad to know it. I didn't know anyone here in New York, but I knew I had a great chief of staff before I ever walked in the door. And that was true here at ESD. Everyone, you know, Mahul, you've earned the respect of everybody. You're the consummate professional in every way, and you've been hugely important to me in my transition here at ESD. It's a tough place to just walk in the door, and so I leaned on you a lot, and you should be proud of the work that you've done here, the service that you've given, the respect you've earned among everyone throughout the agency, no matter where I go in the agency. So I wanted to, Mahul is going to the private sector. He did not like New York State stock option plan, and with a private real estate firm. And, you know, I think the opportunity presented itself when it did. So it's with mixed feelings, but mostly to congratulations, Mahul, to you. And everyone should know Mahul leaves here at ESD on fabulous terms. And we consider you, you know, one of our all-stars, Mahul. And you leave here very proud. So I hope, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you.